on, Bears fans? Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Jason McKie, here at Halas. Back at home for you. Home game for you, J Mack.
Yeah, hardly home, but always repping. You got to throw a little Drake reference in there, man. Drake's coming back, guys. You know, Kendrick's been doing his thing. Drake's coming back.
Well, you know, you got to beat some allegations first.
Yeah.
No, did he? But listen, we got a lot to talk about on today's episode. Got to hear from all three of the Chicago Bears' new signings here. Well, I shouldn't say that. Not all three. Dale Degbo did not speak today. There was a few moves that they did make, but Jonah Jackson spoke today. Got to hear from Joe Tooney today, and got to hear from Grady Jarrett, who you were sitting next to me, J Mack, and I believe the words you said were, "Well, I'm ready to strap up a helmet and run through a wall."
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see the new guys in the building. You know, good to hear their thoughts on becoming a Chicago Bear and hear their thoughts about the organization. But also, you know, a lot of things they talked about was, you know, they're being excited about playing with their new teammates. And that's huge when you're trying to rebuild a culture and a head coach trying to set a new standard here. It's good that they want to get to know their teammates and go to work and, you know, get this thing going.
Yeah, man, I'm very excited. I think that this is going to be an interesting acquisition, and dare I say, some leadership added to this team, and hopefully that is going to be the fix that this Bears team needs, accountability wise. We'll talk about all that more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We do want to let you guys know that the Chicago Bears podcast is brought to you by Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Shout out to Advantage Acura. I'm trying to be in there 61 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. In and out. Let's get the job done. All right, so J-Mac, got to hear from Ryan Poles today first, of course, and Ben Johnson, and they talked about the process of going through, opening the wallet, adding to this team in the trenches in a way that, I mean, I've said this, J-Mac, a couple of times, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. They added to the trenches when you guys were still playing on your team.
Yep.
But there's an opportunity to add to the trenches like the Bears haven't since 1983, where you can do it also in free agency. Yeah. But we still got the draft coming up, and I think there's going to be some additions there. What'd you like about what you heard from Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson on what their process is going through all of this?
Yeah, I'll start with Ryan Poles. The fact that he said that it was such a great opportunity to revitalize the interior of this offensive line. And it started with the guys that were high character guys, right? That's the main thing. Yes, their resume speaks for itself in terms of the type of players they are. But the one thing that we can't see from a standpoint of, you know, analyzing these guys, because we're not around them on a daily basis, is their character. And he said they're high character guys. They're guys that's going to come in and help build this culture, help the head coach, Ben Johnson, set the standard and help the players understand on a daily basis what the expectation is. And that's the first thing. If you have those guys, they're multipliers in that way, which is very important. And then to be multipliers in terms of being able to enhance whatever scheme that Ben Johnson wants to implement in terms of offensively, but also just being able to protect the quarterback and being able to elevate this offense as a whole. Like, you got the best of both worlds because it just kind of fell in your lap. You know, we get a guy in Joe Tooney who's been to 6 Super Bowls. He's won 4. You know what I mean? So he's been a part of organizations that understand what consistency is in terms of winning. He knows what winning looks like on a daily basis in terms of preparation, in terms of the meetings. And he talked about that, the meetings, right? The way you interact in the weight room, the nutrition. He broke down all the details that provide a championship environment that help you have the opportunity to go out there and be successful each and every time you take the field. And then you look at a guy like Jonah Jackson, who, you know, has some success, who has the familiarity with Ben Johnson during his time in Detroit, goes to Los Angeles, doesn't work out, but now he's reunited with a coach who brought the best out of him. You know, he was one of the top guards in the league in a Ben Johnson offense. And, you know, having that type of player being able to get a fresh start, being able to be reunited with a guy that helped him, you know, reach his pinnacle in terms of his time in the NFL is huge. And then you throw in Grady Jarrett, you know, a guy who, you know, got released in Atlanta. We talked about this the other day. If he got released, the next you know, you're a Bear. And, you know,
a flip.
Man. And to be able to get a guy like Grady, right? And I know people may say, okay, he's 31 years old, but just the passion and the fire you heard from his press conference, right? And him understanding, okay, my time in Atlanta is done. That's his hometown. He's from Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, he even said that Atlanta's always going to be my home, regardless of whether I'm playing there or not. But I think the thing that I take away from his press conferences, Pat, is you got a guy that got a fresh start, but you got a guy that wants to prove himself again.
Yeah.
Right. And he's proven himself. He's got one of the, you know, a great resume. he's been one of the best defensive linemen in the league for a while, but coming off an injury, an ACL injury, and people kind of writing him off.
Yeah.
Atlanta released him. Now he gets a fresh start. He was excited to be here. He's a 2-time Walter Payton Man of the Year award, and he talked about, winning that honor, but then actually setting foot in the building, right, and seeing the murals of Walter Payton on the wall. He said he didn't know he had that type of pride in him in terms of when it comes to the Bears organization. So I think he's fired up at the opportunity, and he's fired up to be able to prove people wrong in terms of how they feel about him. But he also talked about, besides his own hunger, he's excited about being able to pass the hunger along to the young guys in the defensive line room. And that's something we need, right? You're going to have coaches going to help develop players, but when you have players that want to help develop players, it makes your team even better.
You know what was weird about today, J Mack, was as I sat there, and I've been through in person for now 3 years of these press conferences, sitting here talking and asking questions back and forth. Today just felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room felt comfortable. Like Ryan Poles felt like, yeah, we did that. Yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson was like, yeah, we got who we wanted. It wasn't that they said it with their words, but the conversation sitting there, it was almost like, well, now we got to show you what we can do, but we're in a great place right now. Even when Ryan Poles talked about, going into the draft, the flexibility that he created, he spoke on it as like, listen, you want to do things in free agency, you want to build through the draft, but if you can make the draft easier by going out and getting good pieces, to me, that was just a conversation of now wait and see what else we got coming, because now it's just the cherry on top.
Yeah. It was a quiet confidence. It was just,
Grady Jarrett wasn't quiet. Let's be real.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about in terms of Ryan Poles.
Ryan Poles, yeah.
Like now let's look at, when you look at this press conference, right? His demeanor, his body language, as opposed to the end of the year press conference when Kevin Warren was talking. He was like, he didn't even speak. He was just sitting there like this. He was like,
that was the Flus one. That was the Matt Eberflus press conference. He was
sitting there like this. He was like, Kevin Warren, I'm going to be calling shots. I'm going to be picking the head coach, and he's just kind of sitting there like. But today, he felt like he was back in his element. He was back in his bag.
Yeah.
He was able to put his entire fingerprints on this roster, right? He succeeded in free agency in terms of what he wanted to do initially. And I think there will be some more signings, coming, in the future with free agency as well. But like you talked about, being able to revitalize this offensive line, being able to bring in an edge like Dale Odingbo, being able to bring in a proven guy like Grady Jarrett.
Yep.
It gives you so much flexibility at number 10. You can do whatever you want. Best player available, trade back, still get a great player. It's just, what are you going to do? Like, your major players at that 10 spot, right? And it's cool because now with the way free agency is shaped up, with all the teams needing quarterbacks, it just goes to show you how this league views the quarterbacks in the draft, right? There's not a high view of these guys, right? Yeah. The Jets went out and go and signed our guy Justin Fields, right? I mean, you got guys moving all over the place in terms of quarterback needy teams, right? They fill those voids. So I think it gives us even more flexibility when you look at a team like Pittsburgh. And I think I think you told me they're 15th?
I believe 15th. Let me double check that. Let me not trip on that, but I believe they're sitting at that 15th position.
Yeah, so like Pittsburgh, right? A team that needs a quarterback, a team that's still flirting around with the idea of possibly bringing in an Aaron Rodgers or whatever they're going to do. You just boosted your wide receiver room up with DK Metcalf. But now, if you want to get one of these quarterbacks, and obviously if you want to get Cam Ward, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. If you want to get Shedeur, or you're hoping Shedeur falls to you, but if you want to get Shedeur, you're going to probably have to move up. I think the third guy in the draft that everybody's talking about is Jackson Dart. Like, are you going to rely on him? So it just puts the Bears, in a great position once again at that number 10 spot. We can do whatever we want. We've addressed, big needs, but it just gives you a lot of flexibility and it opens up the entire board.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm looking for the Steelers pick right now. So, lower than I thought. I thought they were 15, 21. They did some winning this year. You know what I mean? They did some winning. Till it mattered. I do wonder what they're going to do with the possibility of a Shedeur Sanders. We were talking about it. He might have hurt his draft stock a little bit, but this draft is going to be so interesting, J Mack, because like you said, there's going to be people at the top of this draft who go right now. We're out of the quarterback, right? We don't like the crop. We don't. Yeah. And J Mack, what happens? You see a pro day. You go through and you see the underwear Olympics. You watch Will Howard hurt his stock. Listen, if GMs take that into account, Will Howard destroyed his stock. He missed every receiver out there. Yeah. But like you see these things, and then all of a sudden you go, did he hit the roof? Did he hit the ceiling of the building? Oh, we got to draft that guy. And there's always what I think is always interesting. I saw this today. that there may be interest if the Colts are interested in trading Anthony Richardson. Could they possibly talk about it to the Steelers? Because Steelers are kind of out of options. Like, you look at this draft, and I think there's going to be that quarterback name, whether it is Shedeur Sanders early on, or whether it is, I keep saying Jackson Dart. I'd be very surprised, but I guess I was shocked by Anthony Richardson being that high. But there's going to be somebody that shakes this up, that gives the Bears an immense amount of opportunity at 10. And I think that's the part for me that has me even more excited, because now, J Mack, if I'm the Bears, not to say that you got long-term answers. I think Joe Thuney's a good player. Maybe you get, I would say, let's be real, NFL, right? Maybe you get 2-3 years out of him long-term. You're probably going to need to address that position.
Yeah.
You got a 26-year-old center. You have a 27-year-old right guard. You have a 25-year-old right tackle. Braxton Jones is still young. They seem to have a real affinity for him, depending on the injury situation. When he's going to come back, maybe you upgrade there in the draft. If you want to go with an Armand Membo at 10, or if teams are looking at offensive line, Jacksonville is like, we're not really in on. We need to be in on offensive linemen in this draft. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're not taking Mason Graham? Well, who is? Because if he get anywhere near me, we got to have some conversations.
I mean, we know the draft in terms of there's so many mock drafts out there, and then you get to the draft and it never, obviously the board changes, teams trade up.
Yeah,
teams that you didn't even think had a shot at getting in the top 10, all of a sudden getting in the top 10. But the Bears are in a situation where if they're still at 10, I mean, there's going to be so many guys available at their disposal. Even if they do trade back a little bit, I still think there's going to be guys that can come in to help this team, right? If you trade back a bit, you still have a chance to get a Mike Green. If you want another edge guy, Adam Marshall, still got a chance to get. I don't know if Kelvin Banks, if he falls out of the top 10, you got another guy to get.
Weird talks.
Josh
Kelvin
Simmons
Banks
may be available. Like you mentioned, Armand Membo, if there's conviction in terms of you want him, the tackle out of Missouri, you stay at number 10 and get him. So there's so much flexibility. I mean, heck, Tyler Warren, the tight end at Penn State, depends on what Ben Johnson wants this offense to look like. If he wants to major in 12 personnel, well, you got Cole Kmet, and now you've got Tyler Warren. So you've got 2 tight ends, and you just brought in another tight end that gives you more flexibility with this offense. So the Bears are in such a great spot at number 10 because of what Ryan Poles had done in free agency. I think it just, it's the possibilities are endless in terms of what they will do and what they can accomplish. But the good thing is, you're going to get a good player in here that can help this team.
Yeah, listen, I'm incredibly excited to see what this Bears team is going to be able to do in the draft. The one thing that I do like, though, is that we got players here now that are proven, and getting a chance to hear from Jonah Jackson today, getting a chance to hear. I was glad to hear from Jonah Jackson. I know he got peppered with this question a lot, but the what happened in L.A. was the biggest question that all of us had. Because here's the thing, J Mack, and I understand you get younger players that can play the position well. But if you're the better player, they usually stick with you in the NFL. I'm not tripping when I say that, right? Like, I'm not making it up. Whereas, if he was better, they would have went with him at right guard, no matter the situation. At left guard, no matter the situation. That does concern me. But it's also about, was Sean McVay, who I think is a master at football, putting him in the best position to be successful, or did he find somebody that he felt, hey, this guy's in here, he's working, we're not going to change it up. We're going to stick with this. I think that's the tough part about him coming from LA, but he seemed confident that being back with Ben Johnson, I'm right back in my element. Here we go.
Yeah, it makes sense. When it's like, okay, you're trading offensive linemen. There's not a lot of offensive linemen out there that are successful, that can block, that have a good track record and a good resume. You know what I mean? You look at Joe Thuney, I think financially that was the bigger piece.
They went with the young guy and Trey Smith over going with the 32-year-old.
But if you got a young offensive lineman that's productive, most of the time these teams are doing whatever they can to retain that guy.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, but at the same time, I think it's good because you've got a young guy who had a down year, got hurt in Los Angeles as well. Get an opportunity to reunite with a coach that helped brought the best out of you while you're in Detroit. You saw some of your better football in terms of the way you played and development while you were in Detroit under offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So, it's a fresh start, and you get an opportunity to go out there and improve yourself. And I think he's going to benefit from playing, like he even talked about. I get the opportunity to play with Drew Dahlman now, a high-level center. I get the opportunity. I'm on the same offensive line as Joe Thuney, a guy that has a great resume in this league.
Yeah.
I'm playing along my right tackle. Now we're 2 young guys on the same side, and Darnell Wright. So it's going to be.
Which I love because he said, he was like, it reminds me of playing next to Penei Sewell.
Yeah,
I was like, don't tell me that.
He said he, Darnell had a lot of the traits and qualities, big, massive guys that have, they're explosive, they're athletic. Rob Howard, he talked about all those qualities and traits that he saw in Darnell Wright that was similar to Penei Sewell out there in Detroit. So it's real exciting. I think the main thing is to see how this all comes together. And, Ben Johnson talked about it. He talked about when evaluating these offensive linemen, right? Him and Poles, the first thing that he wanted were guys that were dirty, gritty, nasty, right? And that's the type of offensive lineman you want to play with. Yeah. I don't want a nice offensive lineman.
I love that he said that.
You know what I mean? Like, come on. I don't want an offensive lineman like, no.
Because you're more willing to speak up when you're that guy, to me.
Yeah.
Right. I think Tevin off the field, like, listen, I'm not telling you be that dude off of the field, right? No crimes. I don't need to hear about TMC episodes here on the Chicago Bears podcast. But it just seemed like we weren't getting dudes that were willing to get down and dirty when the other team was willing to get down and dirty. I mean, J Mack, the first year of us doing this podcast, we were sitting there talking about how somebody hit your quarterback and you ain't got nothing to say.
I mean, how's your running back on the ground? You're not running down the field to pick him up. Your quarterback's on the ground. You're not running over to pick him up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Last year we had what was the game, J Mack, where Caleb put his hand up? I can't remember the game. Caleb put his hand up and I want to say Cardinals game maybe.
It was a lot.
And the defensive player comes to pick him up and I'm like,
yeah, it was a lot of
where are our team? Where's our team?
It was a lot of games. I think, having, like, he talked about that trait, but another one I think that's real important that we got to talk about is the intelligence. So we talked about the intelligence, right? The IQ, the mental makeup of these guys, right? He said having guys that have a high IQ level obviously is going to enhance the ability in terms of what he can implement or install in his offense, right? So if you got guys, right, they have the athleticism to be able to run whatever scheme that you want, but they also have the intelligence to be able to retain the information that we're installing on a daily basis, right? And we know Ben Johnson, right? Jonah Jackson talked about it in one of the interviews. He said he's like a wizard. You never know what he's going to call, when he's going to call it.
Yeah.
Like, so
I asked him, was he ready to throw some passes? He was like, leave that to Penei. Leave that to Penei. I don't want the ball in my hands.
Right. But having guys that have a high mental makeup of the game, it allows you to install more. And he said that, I'm going to install as much as my guys can retain, which is a breath of fresh air, because you get some head coaches and some quarterbacks that just want to install the world, but your players aren't retaining it, but you don't care because you feel like the volume that you have is better. It's going to give you a chance to be successful. When actuality it's going to hinder you, because guys are going to go out there, they can't execute what you implemented last week, but you're already piling on top of that. So having guys that have a high mental makeup, but also having a head coach know and understand, right, who was a coordinator, a successful offensive coordinator in this league, that I'm only going to implement what my players can retain and what we're successful at. If it's only this type of run scheme, then that's all we're going to run, and we'll build off of that, and we'll layer that particular run scheme. So it's him having, like Ryan Post talked about, him having that clear vision and direction. I think having that and implementing that from the top down will make this team successful. And it's good to hear you have a head coach that understands that, but is really trying to implement that with this team.
Yeah, and I listen, I know they probably haven't had a ton of conversation. All of this just went down last week to this week. But it feels like Jonah Jackson kind of you talk about those traits. It feels like Jonah Jackson got some of the confidence put back into him when Ben Johnson reaches out and says, that's my guy. I've worked with him. I played with him. He was a Pro Bowler. I need him on this team. And the Bears go out and get him. And when he talked today, even in the scrum talking about the LA situation, he was like, my arm broke in a way, or my shoulder got dislocated in a way like that only happens in car accidents. He was like, I think it was Hogue. He was like, can you explain like how it happened? He's like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
He's like, it was a third down drill.
Yeah. He said
it shed. I don't know. Like, I can't tell you what happened. So like, I think the fact that not only are you bringing somebody in who has worked with or who has been in a huddle of that Ben Johnson has called before, but also the fact that you have the coach here that I think this young man might have needed somebody to be like, yo, we're going to get you back right. Don't worry about it. Like, LA was LA. Like, and I think that that's the part of the game that a lot of fans don't get to see and is under talked about, where a coach can break a player.
Yeah.
If you go through the process and you just sit there and we put him in the wrong spot and then blame him for being fair, like, you can break a player. And he said Sean McVay was very gracious in how they went about everything in LA. But I think that with that same tendency, right, Jonah Jackson was a Pro Bowl level player. Wasn't all pro, but still was a really good season for him. And Ben Johnson being back with him, I wonder if that's the voice that he needed in his ear to build him back up to get him that confidence. Because he sat up there next to Joe Thuney, who's 4 Super Bowls in, and he didn't look like he was shying away at all.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a fresh start with somebody that, you know, the good thing is you're familiar with that particular coach who is now your head coach, but you also know that the scheme that he's going to implement and his ability as a head coach is going to bring the best out of me as a player.
Yeah.
And that's, as a player, that's comforting. That'll revitalize you. That'll re-energize you. And, you know, obviously when you have that affinity for a head coach, right? You have that rapport with the head coach.
Mile.
You want to go the extra mile. You want to run through the wall for this coach and make sure he's successful because he believes in you. You know, and I've had coaches like that where I would do anything for because, one, they gave me a chance. 2, I knew they believed in me. But also I knew whatever scheme they implemented, they were always going to put me in a position to be successful. So I was going to do whatever it took to make that coach successful. And I think that's what you see from Ben Johnson and Jonah Jackson. Ben said, I'm going to get my guy. I don't care what type of year he had last year. I know what he can do. I know what he's done for me already. Let's get it done, big fella. And he's here now.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited about it. I think you mentioned running through a wall. That finishes out with Grady Jarrett there.
Yeah.
Grady Jarrett, my God. Vibes of DeMarcus Walker, but definitely a much more illustrious career. But just hearing him talk, I mean, in the room with Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney sitting there, he's bringing up 3 sacks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
he's bringing up the how he leads the team in quarterback hits, and basically just telling him, I don't know what y'all think this is. I'm not going to do nothing different than I haven't done already. Get ready for it. But I thought he brought out a very good point to talk about, not only with him, but also with Dale Dengbo, who some people have had a lot of questions on why the Bears went out and signed him. And you can speak to this as a coach as well, where Grady Jarrett's impact is going to be felt here in a few different ways. He may not be the guy who was, I think he had 15.5 sacks one season from the interior. It's freaking nuts.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
But is he affecting the quarterback? Is he around the quarterback? Is he getting the quarterback hit? He brought up quarterback hits for a reason. And what he said after that was, I know people look at the sacks, but as long as you're affecting the quarterback, that is your job on the field.
Exactly. And that was a great point he brought up because, you know, a lot of, you know, they look at what he had 3 last year. Was it 3 or 2.5?
Grady had.
It was a low number.
Let me double check that. Now I know Dale Dengbo had 3 last year.
So whatever.
Let me double check Grady's. I want to say 6.
So maybe I'm
Which
wrong.
is still a solid number of sacks from the interior.
Good.
Bro, he's on the interior. That is absolutely insane.
But he talked about that, right? So you look at the sack number.
No, you are right. 2.5 sacks.
Right? That's what I thought.
Right,
so you look at the sack number, right? You say 2.5 sacks, right? The guy's 31. Is he too long in the 2? Does he still have it? Coming off an ACL.
2 years ago. That's
like you're coming off an ACL. He's long in the 2. 2.5 sacks. Can he still produce? Is he too old? But he mentioned the quarterback hits. And that's huge because last year, what did we see? We saw a quarterback, a lot, no matter who we play, sitting in a clean pocket, being able to dissect the defense, putting a lot of pressure on our secondary. And the common theme that we heard every press conference all last year was rush and cover, right? The rush has to match the coverage. Well, it didn't match.
That was because Eric Washington's preaching point.
Because the rush was non-existent.
Right.
We couldn't get consistent pressure on the quarterback. And you see in this league the successful teams that are able to generate consistent pressure with their defensive front and not having to rely on second-level pressures, bringing a linebacker or third-level pressures, bringing safeties down. When you can rely on your defensive front to get consistent pressure on the quarterback, it opens up a lot of things that you can do defensively, but it also allows you to dictate as a defense, right? It also, I mean, it puts that quarterback, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, when you can just completely whoop an offensive line with your front 4 or your defensive front, consistently getting pressure. It just, like I said, it's real tough. And we saw that. I mean, look at the Eagles, what they did to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Able to get consistent pressure with their front 4. That's why they were a championship team. And bringing in guys that understand that, yes, the sack totals may not be there, but he's affecting the quarterback. He's getting those hits. He's getting the quarterback on the ground. He's making that quarterback second guess himself whether or not he should stand in that pocket because now I got to throw the ball, but I got to stare down the barrel of Grady Jarrett running at me. Do I really want that smoke? You know what I mean? Like you get hit in the mouth time after time from Grady Jarrett, you're gonna sit there and say, you know what? I'm gonna try to slide out, and then you got to deal with Deo Adingbo. Well, if I slide to my left, now I got to deal with a Montez Sweat. So it's good that he mentioned the quarterback pressures because he just wants to wreak havoc. He wants to be a disruptor. In the passing game and the running game, and that's what he's been his entire career.
And I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, yes, you got the quarterback pressures, but you didn't finish the job. You didn't get the sack. Yes, you're close, right? You got the quarterback hits, but you didn't finish the job. And it is that mental game that you have to play as well, though. You need those QB hits along with the sacks. The QB hits usually lead to the sacks because after the third time getting hit, I'm sick of getting hit already, bro. And I think having two guys on this roster and in Grady Jarrett, who I don't know where I got 15.5 from, 7.5 was his high. I don't know who the heck I was thinking about from the middle. That's Aaron Donald
from
numbers.
The interior, that's a lot of
that's Aaron Donald numbers. 7.5 was his high, but 36.5 on his career. But a guy who's always been able to get pressure up front. And I think what it does, I love this signing for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think it unlocks Andrew Billings. And we talked about this on Monday when the signing went down. I think that this allows Andrew Billings to be kind of the run stuffer that he once was on this team, which was the massive problem for the Chicago Bears last season. I think that's your answer to that because a lot of guys you signed this offseason aren't elite in the run. You're still going to have some guys in the draft, but they're not elite as run stuffers, right? Andrew Billings was. Like, it literally got to a point, and even still some in the goal line, realistically, last season. There was a point where it was like, if Andrew Billings is on the field and you're trying to run up the middle, you're not running up the middle. Like, you stop trying. Go run outside zone, even if that's not your scheme. That's the only way you're going to make this happen. I think that having Grady Jarrett in here as a pass rusher is going to make Andrew Billings' life as a run stuffer come back to life and be a heck of a lot easier. On the flip side, you said it when we were sitting there, right? When you hear him talk, it makes you want to run through a wall. And as much as I loved D-Walk here, I loved DeMarcus Walker, and he talked very similar to how Grady Jarrett is talking. When I bring 36.5 sacks with me, the talk hits a little bit harder. Not to say that DeMarcus Walker wasn't always talking, not to say he didn't want to be that type of leader. I think that he did. But I think it's kind of tough when you're finishing a season with 4 sacks and you're telling me how I need to do my job. There is a cachet to having on one side of the ball 4 Super Bowl rings that if you want to mouth off, I could put these things on and backhand you with them. There is a cachet to on the other side having one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL on the other side to say, hey, listen, this is how we need to do my job. And I asked Grady Jarrett about that. How do you keep the accountability without it coming off as disrespect? And he turned it on himself. He said, it's about me doing my work and me doing everything I'm asking myself to do and everything they asking me to do. And now you can't say nothing when I ask you to do something.
Yeah, it's like you can't. I mean, it's simple. It's cliche, but it's true. You can't talk the talk if you're not walking the walk, right? I can't talk about, I can't be a leader if I'm not one of the first people in the building and one of the last to leave, right? I can't be a leader of that defensive line room if I'm not consistently watching film, but not only watching film as an individual. Everything I do has to be in terms of being a multiplier. So I need to bring the young guys along to watch film with me. I need to bring the Zach Pickens along with me, the Daniel Hardys, the Austin Bookers. You know what I mean? We're not leaving, guys. We're going to sit here and watch film. After practice, we're going to get some extra reps. We'll work on hands and stuff like that. So that way we can be elite when we take that field on Sunday, Monday, or Thursday. Those are the type of things that I think when you bring in a Grady Jarrett who's had success in this league, who has the resume, and he talked about the resume and he talked about what he can do as an individual.
Put the resume on the table.
But the good thing that I like that he said was, right, he put his resume on the table, but he also said, I'm excited at the opportunity that I have that inner hunger, but I'm able to pass that hunger along to the guys who I'm going to be playing alongside, but the guys who are also in that defensive line room. I'm going to try to pass along this hunger. I'm going to hold them accountable, but I'm going to help develop these guys as well. And when you have a unit like that, where you have like your frontier guys affecting the quarterback, and you have that D-line rotation, and those younger guys, those Austin Bookers, those Daniel Hardys, guys that are Zach Pickens, right, are developing because of Grady Jarrett's presence, and you can put those guys in and still get the same pressure and production that you're getting with those frontline guys. Look out, because that's what we've seen from the great teams in this league.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, that the leadership excites me more than anything that you've brought into the building, and I think that you've got guys who are willing to be vocal leaders. I love that you said it, right? Joe Tooney seemed like Cameras on. I don't need this. But we've heard him in the huddle, right? We've heard him and how he was voted the MVP by the Kansas City Chiefs based on, the best player that they had that season. On a team with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Joe Tooney's getting voted the MVP. That tells you how highly they think of him and what kind of leader he is in that locker room. I think that you look at Grady Jarrett and listen, like the fire that he plays with, you have to match that.
Yeah.
If you don't match that, and I love how he said this, and I don't know if it was a shot to anybody, but I think it was just a message to everybody. Mm-hmm. If you're not trying to be a part of the process, get out the way, and we'll figure that out as we go through the process. Yeah. And that's kind of where, like, something we didn't have here, right? I can't imagine having a team with Grady Jarrett, having a team with Joe Tooney, and having a team with Nate Davis, who was formerly here. The standards just don't match up. And if all right.
I don't even want to talk about. I don't even want to talk about.
But I think that is the and listen, I understand all of it, but I think that's just the focal point that you can look at as the thing that the previous regime went through, where it's like, I can't understand how that's acceptable on a football team.
Yes, and it goes back to, right, you talk about leadership. We just talked about, I'm not just talking and I'm walking it, right? Well, you can't have a leader that's not practicing on it. You can't have a leader that only practices once throughout the week. But then after practice,
we had a lot of those, J Mack.
But after practice, he's in his sweatpants. He doesn't have his helmet, and he's leading the huddle after practice. Hey guys, we got to continue to get better. We got to keep working hard. Wait a minute. I'm a young guy. Wait a minute. Time out, coach. Time out, coach. He didn't even practice.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's okay because it starts from the top.
Yeah.
They're saying that's okay. And that's why we saw last year, how many press conferences and interviews did we see or did we conduct where the word accountability came up?
Yeah.
You had players pleading to be coached, to be coached hard, to be held accountable.
Yeah.
How many times in training camp and in practice did we go out there on that field, Pat, see guys drop a pass and just jog back to the huddle like it's okay?
Yeah.
But then the same thing happens on Sunday because it wasn't the accountability level was not upheld in practice. So therefore it took place in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think when you look at Ben Johnson, and not just him, because we're still going to see what type of head coach he is. We don't know what type of head coach he is. But when you look at the supporting cast that he's brought in terms of his coaching staff, look at an Eric Bieniemy, culture builder. He's been around success, been around one of the greatest coaches to ever coach this game in Andy Reid. You look at it now, Harris, who I've been around as a player in my rookie year, who I played against, culture builder.
Yeah.
He ain't going to let SHIT slide. He ain't gonna let Tyreek Stevenson sit there and talk trash to the Washington Commanders fans while the play's going on. That's not gonna happen. He's not gonna overlook any detail. He's gonna hold everybody accountable because that's who he was as a player and that's who he is as a coach. And you can go down the line with a lot of the coaches that Ben Johnson brought in. He brought in guys that are culture builders that's gonna uphold the highest level of accountability that they can.
And I think the thing is too, right? You mentioned accountability. If it does happen, something will happen. Remember the
exactly.
Tyreek Stevenson situation. We were sitting there and we're like, okay, are we gonna is he gonna play? Is he gonna be suspended? Is there something to be accountable? And I just remember all they did, right? He had to apologize to the team, of course. You expect that, but he didn't start the next day, the next game. And that was punishment enough because it's a great honor to be a starter in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it's not.
Right.
But you're not hurting my feelings that much if I still get to play in the game.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't get to go out for the first drive. Okay.
Yeah.
Am I in this drive? Yeah, get out there. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I listen, as an NFL player, tell me if I'm wrong. Is that if you were suspended for the first drive, is the embarrassment enough for you to feel, or are you kind of like, are you coming at it from where I'm at, where it's like, all right, well, thanks, I guess. I didn't lose no money.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, hey man, I'm still gonna play this game.
Okay, so I'm not tweaking on that.
I don't, what I'm saying. It's
maybe to each day. Like it. Yeah. I'll say this.
It just,
if it's Ray Lewis, first off, I'm probably not bitching, but if it's Ray Lewis and I sit you the first drive. That means something.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're the story this week.
Right.
You're on first take.
Here's the thing.
You are everything.
But if you look, this is the situation we're talking about. But Terrell Smith and Tyreek, like, they would flip flop anyway.
Anyway,
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. For me, it's just it's different. Like
the point was, we know now that there'll be accountability in the building.
Yes.
If a situation like that were to arise, you can never predict whether it is or it won't.
Right. And here's the thing, right? Yes, it feels different. The press conferences feel different. The player press conferences that we saw today from the new Bears feel different, right? And everybody keeps throwing out the word all season champs, and I freaking hate it. All season champs. That's just like we're the punchline of a joke.
Well, that's what it is, J Mack.
It really is.
That's literally
I'm tired of that. I'm tired
Bears
of that.
fans are literally saying off-season champs because we've been off-season champs.
I don't want to be the
off-season
champs, and I'm glad. I'm not saying like I'm not negating the moves they made. I'm glad they're making the moves, right? I'm glad that you finally see action being put behind the words, right? We want to improve the trenches, but you don't make any moves to do it. I'm glad that we're seeing action, right, being implemented in terms of improving glaring weaknesses on this roster.
Yeah.
Right. So the all-season champs thing, I'm tired of that. Let's go out here and prove it. So I'm excited to go out here and see, what minicamp's going to look like, what OTAs are going to look like, what training camp's going to look like, because that's going to be a huge tell in terms of we can see the accountability, right? We can see the scheme, what type of scheme he's trying to implement, right? We can see all these coaches in action, and that's where, the true identity of your team starts to take place. We can see the new players that we brought in, but even the players that are retained, what did they learn from last year?
Yeah.
Right? Are they holding each other accountable? Are they upholding the standard and culture? Right? Because Ben Johnson.
How do you deal with accountability?
Right. How do you do it?
Because I think that's going to be the part I got to see, J Man. Everybody calling for it.
Right.
But now you got somebody got 4 rings that'll backhand you with them.
That's what I'm saying. Man, Coach yelled at me and made me sit on. He made me sit on the sideline. He sit me in the locker room. Like, what the hell? They would have never done that last year. Different year, different coaches. Different set of expectations and standards. So I'm excited to see how this thing shapes out. I know all the Bears fans are, but I think obviously I'm not saying off-season champs. We're moving in the right direction. Am I going to be overly optimistic? No. I'm going to be even keel, like I said before, because now I want to go out there and see how all these things are going to be put together. Right? Draft's coming up. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what young rookies they bring, add to this roster and what these rookies will bring to the table. And it's fun. The offseason is fun because you get to see new players and a new coaching staff again come in here and try to revitalize this team. But I'm done with the all-season champ stuff. I don't want to hear that shit no more.
Listen, J Mack. I mean, if we're being real, we might not even want it this year. I'm looking at Washington. I'm like, y'all doing a little too much.
Well, look at Minnesota.
Look at Minnesota.
Hey, they're building the trenches too. So it's all about maintaining a competitive edge, and it all goes down to the daily details. Are we outlifting Green Bay? Are we outlifting Minnesota?
Yeah.
Are we outlifting Detroit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything you do, you're trying to gain a competitive edge over your opponents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Are we conditioning? Like when they start getting back for all season lifting, are we outrunning Green Bay? You know what I'm saying? Are we outrunning Minnesota? Are we outrunning Detroit? Like all those things matter. All the details. Is my nutrition better than my opponents?
Yeah.
Am I eating Popeyes while they're eating Greek yogurt? Or you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like all that stuff matters.
They O-linemen, J Mack. Maybe we want them to eat some Popeyes.
You do, but I'm just saying all that stuff matters.
Shelton could have used a couple of legs.
All that stuff matters.
100%. No, I get you. I think, listen, I love the fact, again, like I keep going back to Grady Jarrett, but like there's a hunger inside of him that I hope is infectious to this team. And you could feel it in the press conference. It was palpable. And when Herb asked him about the chasing Jordan Love down play, I love the fact that it's burned in his mind.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, and yes, I know it was going around social media, but he knew, like, he was like, I chased you down. First off, if we had 50 yards, I'd have got you. Like, you acted like you outran me. Right. Second off, like, don't talk to me as you walking away with your offensive lineman walking up, because you know what was about to happen if I get to you.
Yeah.
Like, I just love that, like, those moments are burned in his mind. It's like, I can't wait to play him 2 times a year. Like, that to me is a fire. Not to say that the Bears didn't have. I think this time last year, right, you had players who had fire like that. But it's fire with production behind it. It's fire that's actually burning. It's not a candle.
Yeah.
This man is a forest fire.
Yeah.
And I hope that it is infectious to the rest of this team, especially 100%. with the accountability part. Was there anything else from today that we didn't hit on that you thought was a major takeaway to bring out?
No, I thought it was a good day. Obviously, it's the start officially of the new year, right? Today's the start of New Year, so It's like Christmas football is going to be back. The draft's coming up in that stinky town up north, which I don't know why they're hosting the draft there, but it is what it is. Bears got the number 10 overall first-round pick.
10th overall pick.
So we'll see what they do with it, and Poles we trust, and let's see how he continues to build this thing.
Ben Johnson we trust. I trust Poles for the first two rounds. I ain't going to lie to you. Well, third round get ugly.
But you know what, though? It's awesome to see the influence that Ben Johnson has on Poles in terms of making the move. Because look, he said, I wanted offensive linemen that were dirty, right? And Poles is going out there and he's addressing it. So the alignment, right, that we're seeing, right? Yeah. We haven't always seen the alignment here in Chicago, right? The alignment's here. And like Poles said, right, I can be aggressive in free agency because there's clear vision. Yeah. When you have clear vision.
I was going to bring that out.
Right.
Yes.
When you have clear vision, you can go out there and be aggressive and get the guys that you want, because now the head coach is telling me, I need this type of left guard.
Yeah.
I need this type of center.
Yeah.
I need this type of right guard. I'm trying to run this type of scheme. I need these type of players. That's clear vision. That's direction.
And it he talked about it in the sense of going and getting Joe Thuney, because I think in fans' minds, right, we think that there's just an FBI agent that swoops in whenever something may be about to happen and lets a GM know. And Poles is like, I found out on social media and I asked Ben and then I started making calls.
Yeah.
But if you know what kind of offensive lineman you're looking for, already I'm calling Ben up and going, Ben, we got this guy. He might be nice. You want him? Right. 4-time Super Bowl champ. Right, yeah, that fits the thing we're looking for.
Ben, Thuney, yep. All right, Thuney.
Yep. Let me call Golden State. Let me call Kansas State. They win like Golden State.
Right.
Let me call Kansas City. Like it was quick, and that's why you saw Joe Thuney's available for trade. And I think, what was it, 45 minutes later, an hour later?
Yeah.
Adam Schefter quote tweeted, Joe Thuney has been traded to the Chicago Bears. Like, those are moves. Same with Grady Jarrett, right? That you didn't expect the Bears to make. But it's because a player became available due to finances, everything like that. But they were able to move quicker than everybody else, because now all of a sudden I know what Ben wants. We had this conversation. I don't know if Flus was or wasn't doing that, but it did feel like there were times where it's like, why not pick up the phone and call? Why not talk to him? Well, we got guys here. Yeah, but that's that guy. You know what I mean? When Joe Thuney becomes available, you pick up the phone and call. So I'm excited to see what ends up happening here. Like I said, it feels different. I'm still not on the Kool-Aid. There is sugar in this Kool-Aid, but I told y'all, my cap is 9 wins right now. That's where I'm sitting at till I see some crazy production on the field. J Mack, I heard you say you think at 14 wins.
No, I'm not. J Mack's not saying that. And the one thing he ain't saying is off-season champs.
He's not off-season champs. That's the one that gets him. I love that.
Man, come on, stop.
You want to know why? Because
it's been that bad. Like, we're hanging our hats on that.
No, because every Bears fan is using it as oh, good job. You won the offseason again.
Right, I understand.
Who cares?
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
Because it's the thing. You got to think about it, J Mack. Technically, we won the offseason when we got Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Then we didn't protect Justin Fields. He died.
Right.
And then we won the offense when we traded for the number 1 overall pick, traded the number 1 overall pick, and got DJ Moore. We had all these pieces. Oh my God, we won it again. Here we go. Now it's time. He's dead. Now 7 wins. He's dead. Let's come back third year. Caleb Williams available. Might be in there. Are we going to win the offseason again? Yes, we did. Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze. We got the Bear Force One. We ready to fly, baby. 5 wins last season.
And as a player, like that's motivating enough. You know what I mean? Like you hear that talk. These players hear it. They see the tweets. They see it. They hear the talk. They watch
Jaquan Brisker definitely see it.
Yeah, they watch NFL Network. They watch Good Morning Football. They watch Chicago Bears podcast weekly on ESPN
tap
Chicago.
In with us. Love to have some of you guys on.
Yes, make sure you tap in. They see all that. They hear all that. They hear the doubters. They hear the naysayers. They hear the punchlines, off-season champs. And after a while, it's got to piss you off.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ben Johnson ain't trying to hear that. I'm sure Ryan Poles is tired of hearing that. So does it feel different? Yes. Right now it's time we're putting the action in terms of building this roster, but now it's time to go out there and prove it on Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, whatever day we're playing.
Yeah, 100%. Let's hope this actually turns into regular season wins, not just off-season champs. And we see this Bears team start to move in the right direction, like it was once said. Sometimes you got to let a naysayer know.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We're going to get up out of here, man. Going to keep you guys covered as always on anything Chicago Bears. Back tomorrow, I believe with Yurko. I believe Yurko will be in studio with us.
The good kid.
The good kid, man. He been going crazy in this one.
Man.
When they hired Dale, he was like, who?
he gonna lank you. Let a naysayer know.
Let a naysayer know.
Right.
Hey, man, we appreciate y'all for showing love. It's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there in Chicago. Bed down. One love. Peace.